Let's start a console application and let's add an if statement to it. Now, let's first add some variables. I've got 3 that are of the data type double and 1 that's of the data type string. So, again, these are variables so that these have, in this particular case, there's a place in the computer's memory which temporarily says that the name of it is low, and you can only store double data types in that memory location. Okay, so let's go ahead and start adding some code to this. And the first thing that we're going to do is to pause the output, and first we're going to write to the console or the screen, whatever's between these double quotes, enter the hourly rate, and then we're going to pause the screen output and wait for the user to input a line of code. And then we're going to store that line of code, whatever it is, into this variable called input string. Now, anything that you read in from the keyboard is going to be a data type string. So a string of characters, alphanumeric, numbers or letters will be read into this. Okay, so since this is a string that we're typing in, even if we type in the number 85.2, it's not really 85.2 the number, it's 85.2 the string. So since you can't multiply, add, divide a string, what you want to do is that you want to convert this into a double. So the string that we've input from the keyboard is going to be converted into a double, and then that double will be stored in a rate. And rate is the data type double. So we have that now as a double, whatever was keyed into whatever the user keyed in. And next we'll have our decision, which is an if statement. And one thing you should probably get used to, there's only one line of code after this if statement. But how about if we do this? How about if we say squiggly bracket, ending squiggly bracket? Okay, now what this means is that we have an if statement here, and if this evaluates to be true, this is going to be Boolean, either true or false. Whatever's between these parentheses is going to be either true or false, no matter what kind of calculations you've got in here or what kind of test you have in here. It's all going to evaluate to be either true or false. Now, if this happens to be true, it will execute the block following this if statement. And I put this in squiggly brackets so that you can clearly see the block. Now, if there's more than one line of code, we can just add this to this block. But it will execute the block if this condition evaluates to be true. Okay, so if the rate is less than, a little lazy L here, if the rate is less than low, and low is 7.50, then we output to the console the rate you entered is too low. Well, what if it's not too low? Then what do we do? Well, what we can do is that we can add an else statement. And this else statement can say whatever we want it to. And again, we can put this in a block. Have our starting block, oops, and our ending block here. And we can have it say basically whatever we want to in here. So if it's true, it will execute this block. If it's false, it will execute this block. And one of the things that you can do is that not only can you have an if statement in here, but you can have a nested if statement. So let's put an if statement inside of an if statement. Okay. Okay. So we have our test here for our original if statement. If the rate is less than low, and the rate is whatever was entered, if that's less than low, then the rate that you've entered is too low. Now, what happens if it's not? Well, then it will hit this else statement. And this else statement has another if nested inside of it, which says if the rate that was entered is too high, is greater than 49.99, then execute this line. The rate you entered is too high. Now, if that's not true, and in this case it means if the rate is not too low and the rate is not too high, then it must mean that the rate that you entered is okay. Okay. So that's if statements and nested if statements.